guys, and welcome back to I got fired from my job. I got fired from my job, and now I'm gonna make some dolls. To avoid and prolong the impending financial implications. Oh, thank you very much. That's very nice. I've had this project idea in mind for a while. Do you guys remember in the 90s or early 2000s when American Girl dolls were really popping off? I wasn't into American Girl dolls. Polly Pocket was like more of my sleigh. The nostalgia of just gnawing on a pair of Polly Pocket pants. The nostalgia of telling your mom you accidentally swallowed a Polly Pocket shoe at age 8. But you could order a custom American Girl doll from their catalog to look just like you. You could pick the hair, the eyes, all that. And I want that now as an adult, but in like a cursed way. I love the movie Coraline, and painting eyes is also hard. Put those together, I want to make a spooky, ooky, creepy Coraline doll of myself, totally from scratch. And I'm going to try to use supplies that I already have. No buying new supplies because, well... If you don't know what doll I'm talking about, I don't know, go watch the 2-hour Coraline film from 2009 and then report back here immediately, team. I'm excited to use it as a Halloween decoration or just like year-round decor. Okay, let's absolutely go.
All right, first up, we're making the doll head. I'm just rolling a piece of tinfoil to use as the skull, the innards, so the head is more lightweight. Now, while I thought about how fun it would be to pose my other me doll around the apartment, what would be more fun than that is having 2 dolls to pose around the apartment. Double the dolls, double the fun. Unless we're talking about Chucky, in which case I would argue that probably 0 dolls is more fun. So my boyfriend is also getting a doll, who will hence be known forth as Other Patrick. I'm taking some aluminum crafting wire here and bending that to form an armature, which is basically like the skeleton of the doll. Now, to sculpt the actual heads, I'm using this Super Sculpey. Ripping this apart really freaked me out. Even looking back at this footage now is making me gag. The texture, I think because it is so close to my actual skin tone, it really looks like torn flesh, and that's just not sitting right on my spirit. Moving on, I do need to work the clay a little bit to soften it up and make it easier to mold. I got this product a while ago and never tried it. It is a Sculpey clay softener. You're supposed to be able to mix it in with some older, maybe drier clay to revive it a bit. So I just plopped a dollop of that into my fresh clay and kneaded it around real good, you know, beat it into submission. Then I rolled that piece out flat and covered one of the aluminum balls, just pinching off the excess, rolling it around in my hands to smooth the surface. I made sure to leave a little opening where I could reattach the wire later. This is me just admiring the fact that I am vampirically paler than the clay, which itself is marketed as translucent on the packaging.
It's the skin of a killer, Bella.
Then I'm going to press in the eye sockets, going for a very sunken in, Tim Burton kind of vibe. You know how Disney keeps making all these live action remakes of their animated movies? Girl, I want a live action Tim Burton animated movie. Hollywood, hello, get on that. A live action Corpse Bride would be sickening. I saw a post recently that was like, I'm asking for a Muppets Pride and Prejudice with everyone played by Muppets except Mr. Darcy, who is played completely straight by Adam Driver. When I tell you I cannot stop thinking about this, girl, that scene of Mr. Darcy...
You have bewitched me, body and soul.
That is my Roman Empire. I think about that every day.
I think about this every day. I think about this all night long. I stay awake, not sleeping, because I'm thinking about this.
This is all I want in life. A live-action Corpse Bride and a Muppets Pride and Prejudice. I'm really not asking for much here. Okay, hey, back to the dolls. I made another one. It has nose and ears. Then I popped those into the oven to harden. And now we're gonna make the rest of the doll body. I traced around the amateurs on some cotton fabric, and then I cut out 2 identical pieces. Make sure you trace the body bigger than you'd actually want it, because by the time you sew those pieces together and then flip them inside out, the doll body will shrink a lot in size. Then that's what I'm doing here, sewing those 2 body pieces together by stitching around the edges with some embroidery floss. Make sure you leave the neck unstitched so you can flip the body inside out. This will be really tricky if you made the limbs too small, which I did learn, so don't do that. And then here we have it, our little fleshy potato sack body. Now we can stuff it up. I had this cotton roving from a previous project that is going to work perfectly, but you could totally use scrap fabric or cotton balls, tissue paper, whatever you've got. I'm going to stuff a little bit of that into each limb, feeling Very Build-A-Bear Workshop core at the moment, and then slide in that wire body and add stuffing around that until we reach the desired plushness. This would also be a great time to add in a little felt heart, a locket of hair from your enemy perhaps, if you wish to use this for voodoo purposes. On the second body, I tried stitching the fabric body pieces together before I cut them out, and that was a lot easier for me to navigate personally, so I just thought I would mention it. Both figures are now constructed. I might have overstuffed my own body a bit, as I have absolute hogs for legs compared to other Patrick, but that's okay, because every voodoo doll body is beautiful. Now comes the part I'm not super jazzed about, the making of the clothes, because it requires general precision and active concentration. Two things I generally try to avoid. Maybe it's a me thing, maybe it's an ADHD thing, but I have a really hard time following instructions, like recipes, patterns, building instructions. All that's going to be a big no from me, sister. I don't have the attention span or the patience to follow along. Now that being said, hey, logically, I know this is not how you make pants. You can't just slap together two cutout V-shapes and expect them to fit. That doesn't mean I didn't try it. And guess what? It did not work. They were way too small, couldn't get them around the legs or the waist. So I'm going to try again. Hey, let's just size them up. We'll do the same thing but bigger. Nope, we overcorrected. These are not it. This reminds me of those cursed jeans from Reddit. I tried to make it work. I tried to trim and tailor them, but ultimately the crotch was just tragic. It's looking like a diaper, and I just can't do that to other Patrick. I was getting really frustrated at this point, so I concede. Okay, I'll look up the instructions. God. I used this site called ICanSewThis.com, and you know what? I can sew this, Violet. Thank you very much. What you do is start out with this coffin-like shape, and you cut that out. Make sure it wraps comfortably around one of the legs with some extra room to sew. And then you cut out your two pattern pieces and sew those together as per the instructions, which, looking back now, actually made a lot of sense. And when I tried them on the doll, hey, they fit a lot better. Diaper crotch is cured. Now the instructions say to sew a strip of elastic into the waistband. I don't have elastic, but what I do have is a broken hair tie, which I feel like will function in the same way. So I sewed that in and then cinched his waist, honey. The back of the pants where I stitched it together looks pretty wonky, but that is what a jacket is for, to cover the mistakes of the past. Now I did look up a pattern for a jacket the first time before I tried to wing it. I did learn my lesson, sort of. For right now. I made a version of this shirt pattern from a 2015 blog post called shinyhappyworld.com. Shout out to you. It's kind of a chunky plus sign with an oval cut in the middle. You need two different fabrics because this jacket is lined, baby. We're moving up in the world. I really did my best to follow the instructions, guys. Look, here I am trying to show you what parts I'm stitching, trying to be a helpful educational craft channel. I thought I was killing it. And then it came time to flip my work inside out for the grand reveal. But the only thing that was revealed to me was that I had messed it all up because it could not physically turn inside out. It could only turn into a crumpled body pillow mess. Here comes the seam ripper, tearing up hours of work in mere seconds. Isn't that just demoralizing? Much like losing your job. Okay, but I took it all apart, I redid the steps, I figured out where she went wrong, and we got there, we fixed it. But at what cost, you know? Now, after hand stitching those two garments for literal hours, I did try to bust out the sewing machine in hopes it would go faster for the other clothes, but honestly, I'm just gonna blow through all that footage. I really wasted an entire day just fighting with the machine. I couldn't figure it out how to make it work with the tiny garments, so I did go back to hand sewing all of them. And it's important that you know that each garment took at least 3 trials. But ultimately, this is what I came up with. I moved that first jacket over to my doll, gave her a little flowy skirt moment with some patches on it. Other Patrick got a matching shirt with a different jacket, a little scarf. Are some of these garments held on with hot glue? I don't know, it's a secret. I also made these tiny little buttons with polymer clay and glued those onto the jackets. Now, my vision for these dolls was a bit more decrepit. The clothes were looking a little too fresh. I wanted them to look more weathered, like they've been sitting in the attic waiting for a small child to stumble upon them and resurrect a troubled spirit. I'm taking some green, brown, black paint and lightly dry brushing that over the clothes. I was desperately wishing I had chalk pastels for this project. I don't have chalk pastels, but what I do have is a nude eyeshadow palette. I'm gonna scrape off some brown eyeshadow and dust that over the clothes to give it that dusty appeal. Yes, I like that. Moving on to the phase I was most excited about, painting the faces. I did lightly sand each head to just smooth over any bumpies, and then I essentially mixed up what is the exact same skin tone that they already had, but this way I can blend other colors on top of that color. It's all part of my plan. So I did a few coats of that, get it smooth looking, and then I'm sponging on what I would call some bruise tones. Brown, purple, red, like literally a bruise. Blending those colors onto the face, we're going for red and splotchy. The category is my face burns. I'm still using that eyeshadow palette to add some little flush cheeks, some shading around the mouth, okay, contour. Then in an attempt to make that creepy smile line look somewhat symmetrical, I'm taking a strip of masking tape and lining that up where I want the mouth to go. Then I can paint the features slightly above the tape, so when it's peeled off, I get that nice, crisp, thin line that, honestly, I could never have achieved otherwise. I'm also giving other me some freckles. When I was a kid, I had like perfectly darling little freckles, which started to fade in my teenage years after years of sunburns and abrasive face washes I didn't know were bad for me at the time. The freckles are still there, but they operate much like those color-changing t-shirts you see at cruise ship ports. You gotta charge them up. Okay, added eyebrows and some placeholder eyes for the moment. Since I will be adding yarn for their hair, I want to paint the hair area with a similarly colored paint in case any spots peek through the yarn. It won't be so noticeably scalp pale. Once we got our swim caps on, it's time for the wigs. I'm using a darker brown for my hair and what would you call that? Sandy blonde, perhaps, for other Patrick. I'm starting by snipping off a bunch of strands to glue on in some fashion. I opted for rubber cement. I have not used rubber cement since probably 8th grade science fair, and the smell of this stuff is so specific, like scent-triggered trauma for real. Now I just gloop some of the glue on the scalp here and lay down the yarn. Rubber cement's not the sturdiest of glues. I could technically like peel off this hair if I wanted to, but I thought I would surely burn myself had I used hot glue. So I don't know, just keep that in mind. Use a different glue if you need it to be sturdier. Once the glue is dry, you can go back and trim it as needed. Other Patrick's hair was looking a little bit founding father-esque here, but we got him fixed up. Giving your partner's doll the hair they deserve. And that's my love language. Finally, we can add the button eyes. These are variously sized buttons harvested from an old jar in my closet. I added a little stitch on them to convey that they are in fact sewn. But before I show you the completed assembled dolls, we're taking a slight detour because we can't have other me and other Patrick without also having other Odie. We need the whole family present in doll form, even if it's against their wills and wishes. I opted to use felt here for baby man. Just drew out his little wiener dog physique, a glowing canine specimen, truly. I used that piece to cut out 2 identical felt pieces, stitch those together, and stuff them up same as the human bodies. Except I did give Odie a little Build-A-Bear heart because he's a sweet baby angel. Final touches, I stitched on an ear, a little nose, and then I'm just gonna paint on some of his fur markings, chiefly his little booties and baked bean eyebrow. Other Odie also gets a button eye. I'm gonna attach those completed doll heads onto their bodies, and then here it is, the final reveal. What do you think of other Patrick?
You're filming me.
One day you're being nice to the weird quiet girl, and the next she's making a tiny voodoo doll of your likeness and hiding it around the woods. I actually really did try to make these dolls creepy looking, but I don't know, they're still kind of cute to me in like a hideously disfigured kind of way. I just ate so much pizza, I feel sick. Look, that's me and you. You have bewitched me, body and soul. Thanks for watching today's video. It is always appreciated. Okay, bye. Subscribe.